The Dorset Regiment was a line infantry regiment of the British Army in existence from 1881 to 1958, being the county regiment of Dorset. Until 1951, it was formerly called the Dorsetshire Regiment, although usually known as the Dorsets. In 1958, the regiment was amalgamated with the Devonshire Regiment to form the Devonshire and Dorset Regiment. In 2007, it was amalgamated with the Royal Gloucestershire, Berkshire and Wiltshire Regiment, the Light Infantry and the Royal Green Jackets to form the Rifles. History: the Dorsetshire Regiment was formed in 1881 under the Childers reforms by the amalgamation of the 39th Regiment of Foot and the 54th Regiment of Foot. The 1st Battalion took part in operations in the Tirah campaign on the northwest frontier of British India in 1897–98, and the 2nd Battalion fought in the Second Boer War, participating in the relief of Ladysmith. First World War. During the First World War, 9 hostilities-only battalions were formed, 6 battalions serving overseas. The 1st Battalion and 6th Battalion served on the Western Front throughout most of the war. Additional battalions were formed as part of the territorial force to meet the demand for troops on the Western Front. 1st Battalion. The 1st Battalion was in Belfast when war broke out. It landed at Le Havre in August 1914, forming part of the 15th Brigade in the 5th Division. It transferred to 95th Brigade in the 32nd Division in December 1915 and to the 14th Brigade in the same division in January 1916. 2nd Battalion. The 2nd Battalion was in Pune, India, when war broke out and was shipped, as part of the 16th Indian Brigade, to Mesopotamia, where it was trapped in the siege of Kut and captured by the Turks. During the siege, returning sick and wounded, and the few replacements who had been sent out were unable to rejoin the battalion, so they, and similar drafts of the 2nd Norfolk Regiment, were amalgamated into a scratch battalion forming part of the force attempting to relieve Kut. This battalion was formerly titled the Composite English Battalion, but was more commonly known as the Dorsets. It was broken up in July 1916, when the 2nd Dorsets was reconstituted. The battalion then served in Egypt as part of 9th Indian Brigade in the 3rd Indian Division. Other battalions: the 1/4th Battalion of the Territorial Force served in India and Mesopotamia, and 2/4th Battalion in India and Egypt. The 5th Battalion took part in the Gallipoli campaign, and having been evacuated from there in December 1915, went to Egypt before joining the war on the Western Front in July 1916. The 6th Battalion was shipped to Boulogne in France in July 1915 as part of 50th Brigade in the 17th Division and saw action on the Western Front. Anglo Irish War. The 3/4th Reserve Battalion was moved to Ebrington Barracks in Derry in April 1918. In April 1920, during the Anglo-Irish War, soldiers from the regiment fired into a protesting crowd on Bridge Street, leading to riots and skirmishes which saw it fight alongside the Royal Irish Constabulary and Ulster Volunteers against the Irish Republican Army. Sporadic violence in the city continued until another large engagement in June, when the Dorsets and the UVF attacked the Bogside area of the city. A large IRA counter-offensive from the west ended the disturbances, which had seen 40 people killed since April. Some RIC officers threatened to resign over the Dorsets' fraternization and cooperation with the UVF. Malabar Campaign. In summer 1921, the 2nd Battalion served under the command of Major General John Burnett Stewart, General Officer commanding Madras District in India, where he was involved in the suppression of the Mopla Rebellion at Malabar between 1921 and 1922. The riots that they quashed were inspired by 10,000 guerrillas and led to 2,300 executions. The officers and men from the Dorset Regiment, who lost their lives while taking part in the suppression of the revolt, are commemorated in a brass tablet at the St. Mark's Cathedral, Bangalore. Second World War. In the Second World War, 8 hostility-only battalions were raised. The 1st Battalion was a regular army unit and part of 231st Infantry Brigade, alongside the 1st Hampshires and 2nd Devonshires. For the duration of the war, fighting in Malta between 1940 and 1942, Sicily in August 1943, and Italy in September 1943. The 1st Dorsets landed on Gold Beach on D-Day in June 1944 as a part of the 50th Infantry Division and fought with the division in the Battle of Normandy in northwest Europe, until the division was withdrawn in late 1944 and used as a training division. The battalion had troops 327 killed and 1,029 wounded. The 2nd Battalion was also a regular army unit and was a part of 5th Infantry Brigade, 2nd Infantry Division, throughout the war, participating in the Battle of France and the Dunkirk evacuation in 1940. In 1944, it took part in the Battle of Kohima during the Burma Campaign of 1944–1945, still with the 2nd Division. The 4th Battalion was an original first-line territorial army unit and, in 1939, raised a second-line duplicate, the 5th Battalion, when the territorial army was doubled in size. The 4th and 5th Battalions were both part of 130th Infantry Brigade in the 43rd Infantry Division, participating in the Normandy Campaign, Operation Market Garden and the Rhine Crossing. The 30th Battalion, previously the 6th Battalion, was with 43rd Infantry Brigade in North Africa and the invasion of Sicily, after which it spent the rest of the war in Gibraltar. The 7th Battalion was raised in 1940 and was later transferred to the Royal Artillery and converted to the 110th Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment, Royal Artillery. The regiment served with the 43rd Division in northwest Europe from June 1944 to May 1945. The 8th Battalion was also raised in 1940 and was initially assigned to the 210th Independent Infantry Brigade and was on home defense. Like the 7th Battalion, the 8th was transferred to the Royal Artillery and became the 105th Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment, Royal Artillery. The regiment was sent to North Africa in late 1942 and fought with the British First Army and later served in the Italian campaign with the British 8th Army. Post-war and amalgamation. In 1958, the regiment amalgamated with the Devonshire Regiment to form the Devonshire and Dorset Regiment. Battle Honours. The regiment was awarded the following battle honours. Those from the 2 world wars that are emblazoned on the Queen's colour are indicated in bold. From 39th Regiment of Foot, Plassey, Gibraltar 1779–83, Albuera, Victoria, Pyrenees, Nivelle, Nive, Orths, Peninsula, Maharajpur, Sevastopol. From 54th Regiment of Foot, Marabout, Egypt, Ava, Martinique 1794–Tira, relief of Lady Smith, South Africa 1899–1902. The Great War. Mons, Locato, retreat from Mons, Mon 1914–A 1914, Le Basset 1914, Armentières 1914, Ypres 1915–17, Gravenstaffel, Street, Julien Bellaward, Somme 1916–18, Albert 1916–18, Flers Corslet, Thiepval, Ancre 1916–18, Arras 1917, Scarpa 1917, Massey 1917, Longmark 1917, Polygon Wood, Broadside, Powell Capel, Passchendaele Street, Quinton Amiens, Bapaume 1918, Hindenburg Line, EPE Acute HY, Canal du Nord Street, Quinton Canal, Beaurevoir, Cambrai 1918, Celle, Samba, France and Flanders 1914–18, Souvla, landing at Souvla, Scimitar Hill, Gallipoli 1915, Egypt 1916, Gaza, El Moghab, Nebi Samuel, Jerusalem, Tel Asur, Megiddo, Sharon, Palestine 1917–18, Basra, Shaiba, Kut al-Amara 1915–17, CTE Siphon, Defensive Kut al-Amara, Baghdad, Khan Baghdadi, Mesopotamia 1914–18. The Second World War, Saint Omer Labassaire, Normandy landing, Villers-Bocage, Tilly-sur-Seulles, Con, Montpincon Street, Pierre-le-Viel, Arnhem 1944, Arm, Geilenkirchen, Gok, Rhine, Twente Canal, Northwest Europe 1940–44–45, landing in Sicily, Agira, Regalbuto, Sicily 1943, landing at Porto San Venere, Italy 1943, Malta 1940–42, Kohima, Mandalay, Mount Popa, Burma 1944–45. Victoria Cross. The following member of the regiment was awarded the Victoria Cross: Private Samuel Vickery, Tirah Campaign, Gallery,